you started as a employee, like a regular job, and then later you become an entrepreneur.
I'm not aligned with the values. I'm so hard-headed in that way.
Live like a CEO.
Welcome back to our another episode of Live Like a CEO. You already know that in this podcast we talk about business life, personal life, and how very successful C-suite executives how they manage these two life. Whether they mix and match or they keep it totally separate. What are their tricks and techniques, and all these things. How how a CEO life look like, kind of things. So, without further delay, let me invite our very special guest today. Her name is Blakeley Barker. She's the agency director for WLR Insurance Solutions, and her office is in Frederick, Maryland, my most favorite city all over the world. So, without further delay, Blakeley, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining. So, in the beginning, would you please introduce yourself and tell us about your service? Who is your client? Um, you know, is there any particular criteria someone must have to be your client? How to reach out to you? All of those business information.
Wonderful. Great. So my name is Blakeley Barker, and I am the agency director for WLR Insurance Solutions. We are a commercially focused agency in that we really just deal with commercial insurance. A lot of the other agencies do a whole bunch of things. We like to do a couple things really well. And commercial insurance is absolutely one of those things. Between the four of us that are currently in my office, we have about 75 years experience in the commercial insurance industry. So we have a different perspective of how we view risk. We view insurance as a partnership. We require the partnership. So the perfect client for us is someone who wants to partner with someone who doesn't just want to call an 800 number when a claim happens. They want a business partner who understands their operations and understands where the risks lie within those operations, and then has the ability to be able to, safety net those risks. Yeah, we're in Frederick, but we are licensed all up and down the East Coast. We prefer clients that have more of an open mind rather than those that are just looking to save a couple dollars, because we can all, buy a really pretty package that has a pretty bow, but if there's nothing in it, you've lost the value. So that's really who our ideal client is. It's who we work well with, and it's who we protect well.
Perfect. Yeah, and insurance is very important, and many people they're scared about insurance and other things. So I'm pretty sure, dear audience, if you have any questions about commercial insurance or anything, Blacklist, all the information, her email address, phone number, everything is on the screen, website. So please reach out to her. She knows what she is doing for a long time, so she will be able to help you in all of your commercial insurance need. So Blackley, I would like to know from you, not everybody is an entrepreneur. Like, only a very small percent of people in America and also all over the world, they're entrepreneurs. So why there's only a small percentage of people entrepreneur? What made you entrepreneur? And tell us about your journey as an entrepreneur.
I don't think that I became an entrepreneur because I'm absolutely fearless and I'm not scared of anything. I think that I became an entrepreneur because I wasn't aligning with the toxicity that I was in a previous role. So I was sort of pushed into, well, do you want to continue in this toxicity, or do you want to run the risk of going out and doing something different? And I felt, as a risk manager, that the risk of becoming an entrepreneur was a lot less than it was for me to stay working for someone when I wasn't aligned with the values and the way business should happen. So it was just one of those things that it wasn't necessarily voluntary. Like I didn't say, yes, please give me all these headaches and all of these things. It was more, I would rather do that than sit in this. And that's what I think a lot of people, you have to figure out what your why is. Why are you doing it? And to be honest, if you say money, that's not going to work out for you probably. It has to
Mhm.
be something else. There has to be another foundation.
Yeah. So you started as a employee, like a regular job, and then later you become an entrepreneur. Am I correct?
Correct. Yes.
Mhm.
Correct.
So you saw the both worlds. So how do you differentiate between these two things, and why you choose entrepreneurship?
Again, I think it was when my values don't align with something,
Mhm.
it throws a red flag for me. And so I would rather choose my integrity and my value over just about anything. And sometimes you have to make some hard decisions when you're coming into those different profound events in your life. But for me, it was my integrity and my values. And I would rather fail and live in a van down by the river and go bankrupt than staying somewhere where I'm not aligned with the values. I'm so hard headed in that way.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Was there anybody in your family who was entrepreneur, like anybody who was doing business that you um, watched that person growing up?
No, actually, I'm a military brat. My father was in the military, so I grew up with a lot of structure, with a lot of rules, and I think even though I didn't have someone that owned a business, I think growing up with that kind of structure, and I'm also a Capricorn, so I naturally like plans and things like that. So I think learning from my dad being in the military was pretty substantial, because when you do flip over to being an entrepreneur and running something yourself, everything falls on you. There's not anyone, I can't call a department,
Yeah.
and ask an insurance question. That's not how that goes. So
Mhm.
I think that for me, I learned the structure and the discipline from my parents, because when my dad was gone, my mom took over. So might not be a business, but raising two daughters by yourself a lot of the times is a pretty good example. And my mom was able to sort of step in and fill the role of my dad, as well as do all of the things, the dinner, the sporting events, all of the major life things my mom did. So I had some really good examples to live my life by, and my parents.
Yeah. So, about your, you grow up as a military kid. A lot of entrepreneurs, they want their children to be entrepreneur. And I heard from some of the CEOs and some of the entrepreneurs that they want their kids to start their own LLC or something, even in the middle school or like in a high school kind of thing. So, what do you think? Like, do you think kids should start business like at least as a fun when they're in middle school, high school, or is there any time? What do you think?
I would agree with that. I think that any type of out of the scope things that
Hmm.
parents can do for their kids is probably a good idea. And there are some holes and gaps in the educational system, and a lot of those holes and gaps have things that we deal with in everyday life. And I really don't think exposing younger kids to, and this is an LLC, this is how
I
it
see.
works, or this is a financial budget, this is what it looks like. I don't think exposing them to those things is a bad idea at all. I think it just fills more into their basket.
That's
When you
cool.
have your
Hmm.
basket, it's just something else that they can pull out that they know. So I'm definitely for it. And my son actually is in musical theater. He's down at ECU, and he is learning right now how to be his own entity, because that's what
That's
he
great.
is. When you're in
Hmm.
musical theater, you're your own
Hmm.
entity. So we're learning about contracts and
Hmm.
agents, and all these things. And, he's 20 years old. So
Perfect. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
That's
not
cool.
bad.
And but yeah, and a lot of like a summer camps. They offer like how to open a LLC kind of things for high school kids. So yeah, a lot of entrepreneur parents they prefer this kind of things.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like it. Anything outside of the box. I don't want anyone to think that they're pigeonholed into anything. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter where you grew up, how you grew up, and none of those things matter. If you put your mind to something,
Mhm.
execute it, find the right people to help you, and you're right on your way.
Yeah, yeah. Very true. So, in business, communication is very important. So, do you have any very personal way of communicating with your clients, your customers, like that you kind of developed by yourself in your 15 years of practice?
I did.
Mhm.
For me, I'm looking at what the client's not talking about. because that's where the risk is. I'm really good at picking up body language. And if, a client might start a question and then pivot to another one, that's a red flag for me. I want to bring that back out. I want to bring what they don't have a perspective on to the table, because that's where the risk is. I don't come in saying, hey, let me look at your policies. How's it going with your insurance agent? No, I want to know what's the hardest thing about your business operation. I want to talk about the hard things, because that's where risk lies. And that's where I can pull these things out, bring them to light, and we can protect them. So I'm a little different in that. I want to know where a business owner feels like they're breaking down. Where is that? And why do you feel that way? So I come in from a really different perspective, a different direction than most insurance agents. And I think that this is something that's evolving in the insurance industry in general. We have a lot of places that are these real big box places, and you're really just a number there. You don't have that partnership. They're not asking you where you feel your business is breaking down, but I am. So I think it's a pretty big deal. And we really need to get back to the fundamentals of that, I think.
Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs, they tell me that they pay attention more into body language and like their action, customers' action, rather than like a speech, like the talking, because people, they talk something and they actually want something else, kind of things.
That is correct. And they might not know what they want sometimes, because if they haven't been exposed to it or have the perception, they don't even understand that it's something that they need or that they would want. So it's very important.
Yeah. So have you ever experienced that you tried your best, you did everything, but your client is not happy about your service? And in that situation, what did you do?
Well, the time that I can remember where I flubbed up a little bit on that is, I think I did something called pooging, and this is what we call it in our world. I overdid it. I gave too much information. I came in with a 16-page spreadsheet, and I'm going to fix all of your problems, and here it all is. And it overwhelmed the client to such a degree that I lost them. And so that was a valuable lesson that, I really have to come in and be able to speak their language and understand on their terms. And that's another reason with the body language and things like that, I've gotten really good at honing in to figure out like when they're checking out, when they're present, and when they've checked out. Has the phone rang? Does the kid has the child texted? All of these things. And I try not to have the real important conversations if I know their mind's not there. And so I pay attention to the subtleties there.
Perfect. Blakeley, it was nice talking to you, and we're taking a very short break, like 30 seconds break, and we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Live like a CEO.
Starting a podcast or looking to make yours more powerful? Make sure it's heard, not lost in the noise. Managing recording, editing, publishing, and promotion can be overwhelming. That's where Kulna Technologies' 360-degree podcast service comes in. We handle everything from recording to producing to publishing, so your podcast always sounds top tier. You focus on the message, while we repurpose, stream, and promote it across every platform. Want a true 360-degree podcast service without the tech stress? Launch your podcast with Kulna Tech today and let your voice reach the world.
Live like a CEO.
Welcome back, dear audience. We are talking to Blakeley Barker. She's the agency director for WLR Insurance Solutions. All of her information, her phone number, email address, website, everything is on the screen. If you need commercial insurance, please reach out to her. Her office is in Frederick, Maryland, but they provide service in the entire East Coast. We were talking about Blakeley's business, communication kind of things. So now we are going to talk about her personal life. So Blakeley, please tell us, do you have any personal hobby that helps you in your business?
Meditation. 100% meditation and intent with the meditation. So it's not so much just closing your eyes and getting grounded. That's a big deal too. But I set a lot of intention when I meditate, because we in my industry, I hear a lot of no's. I hear a lot of no, we're good, so I have to be able to stay grounded during those moments and say that business wasn't for me and I can move on. I started meditation actually before we started WLR Insurance Solutions because of the toxic environment I was in. I actually went to someone who's my very dear friend now. Her name's Brianne Didino. She's an intuitive life coach. I spent 3 months with her quite intensively, like really working on some things. And she came in and was able to just make me such a better person because I understood myself. I understood that when I was feeling rejected, that I needed to figure out why and what it really was. It wasn't the client saying no, because, we hear that every day, but why did the rejection bother me? So I actually started meditating before, and then it's just really amped up since I started this. It's one of the absolute fundamental things that I have to do. Like before we go into big crowds of people, I will sit in my car, take a couple of deep breaths, set my intention, and be along my way. I think it is wildly important for executives and people who have a lot of pressure to take a moment for themselves before they just jump right into the pool. And so meditation did that for me.
Perfect. Yeah, lot of people, they tell me this thing about meditation. My next question is there any particular thing that you do every morning immediately after getting up, and also every night immediately before going to bed?
Yes, I believe it or not, I have one of those large index cards sitting on my mirror in the bathroom. And what I do every morning is I set an intention for the day, whether that's something that has to do with my business, my family, myself. I set the intention. Then around lunchtime, I will revisit that in my head. I'm working and I'm getting ready to have lunch or something. And I'm like, what was I going to do today? And I revisit it. Have I done anything to accomplish that today? I talk to myself a little bit. I try to follow my own direction. And at the end of the evening, I revisit it. And I look at how I accomplished that. And if I didn't, because let's get real, there are days that just go completely sideways. On those days in the evening, I forgive myself. And I say, it's okay. We didn't do it today. We'll get it done tomorrow. So I think that's very important as well.
Yeah. One of my friends, he will watch a 3 or 4 minute fun video, like, SNL kind of video every morning, immediately after getting up, and another video immediately before going to, so that he can have like a very funny kind of attitude in the, when you get up and when he go to bed kind of thing.
I love that. I love Gina, our operations manager. She listens to podcasts. That's her thing. She gets up, whatever it is, but she listens, and it just sort of gets her day started. So we all do it a little different, but it's about spending that time with yourself and making you a priority.
Yeah. Perfect. So, in work-life universe, there's two kinds of people. One, they call it work-life balance. They keep it separate, like totally separate with each other. Another thing is work-life harmony. They kind of mix and match with each other. So which group you belong and why?
I absolutely am with the harmony group. I don't think, and this is my opinion, but I don't think work-life balance actually exists. And I'll tell you why. Because when you're balancing something, they're of equal weight. So they're balanced. Well, there are some days that my husband and my children might need me more than WLR Insurance does. And then there are other days that clients at WLR need me more than my family. So it's about harmonizing those things. It's about making sure that I'm not over giving of myself, that I'm not giving myself in the same capacity all the time in both directions, because then I will crumble. So I think it's about harmony, knowing, my husband has been really great about when I come home, he'll say, good day, bad day. And depending on which one he gets when I come home, he knows, whether I need a shower and a book or, I'm ready to listen to some slam and rock music and get stuff done. It just depends. But I don't think that balance can really exist, because one is always going to need you a little more than the other. And every day could be something different. So I am of the harmony side.
Perfect. Very powerful. Is there any lesson that you learned from your family that you very successfully used in your business life?
Oh man, I love this question.
Okay.
And when people ask me, I love answering it. So I'm a really big Alice in Wonderland fan. I don't know if you've ever read the book by Lewis Carroll, but the book has a lot of subtle lessons in it if you read between the lines of what's going on. And one in particular is the Queen of Hearts was with Alice, and she was talking about jam. So the queen brings out this jam. And Alice says, well, can I have some jam? And she's like, no, it's not jam today. It's jam yesterday and it's jam tomorrow, but it's never jam today. And what that means to me is it's actionable. So I have to be actionable in what I'm saying in the present. I don't want to talk about what happened yesterday. I don't want to talk about what I'm going to do tomorrow. I want to do it today. So I think a really big thing that a lot of executives need to know is when people are looking to them for action, they want it in the present. They don't want you to have a meeting and say, I'm going to do this tomorrow. No, do it today. So not jam yesterday or jam tomorrow, jam today. And that came right from the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. I absolutely love it.
Perfect. Now the opposite question. So have you ever learned anything in your business life that you successfully used in your personal life, family life?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have. And I'm going to bring my husband out again here. So I think it's important to learn about clear expectations. And I'm really strong in that here in this office. I can come in and say, this is what I want to see. This is what I want done. I'm very clear on my expectations. But when I'm at home, I'm not so much. And I can't expect my husband to be a mind reader. So I use the fact that I set these clear expectations here. Why not be clear with my husband, to say, hey, I've really had a bad day today. There's really some stuff going on, because he doesn't know. He can't read my mind. So I think being clear here helped me be clear at home, just in a different way. And it's so important to just throw it out there and to not leave anything behind, because anything you hold in is just going to sit there and it's going to fester and it's not going to do anything good. So you might as well just be clear about what your expectations are and call it a day. A lot of women will talk about going home and having to fix dinner, and their husbands, well, Jerry doesn't do anything. I think it's important when I call my husband and I say, babe, can you make dinner tonight? I'm pretty tired. I've had a rough day. Rather than me just going home and getting mad that dinner's not ready.
Yes.
So clear expectations has pivoted there for me.
Yeah. Perfect. That is really important for any kind of relationship. No matter just a family, like everywhere. Clear communication, clear expectation is really important.
Correct.
So we're kind of end of this podcast. So my last question to you, please, can you please tell 3 tips for young entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs, how to be successful in business?
Sure. I think the first one is that you have to build trust before you build revenue. Don't come in showboating all the time. Don't come in like a lion with this big, beautiful mane. Build the trust first with your clientele, with your partners, whatever you're doing, build the trust first, because the money and all of the good stuff is going to come after that. The revenue will come after the trust. So I think that is number one, most important. I think number 2 is don't fall into the jam tomorrow pattern. What you're going to say, make sure your action follows it, because we're only as good as what our word is, really, in my heart. We're only as good as what we say. And if we say something, follow through with it. It's very important, because everyone's watching you, and that's just how that goes. I think the third thing is to become really clear with what your why is. If you can't stand up in front of a room and give a 60-second elevator pitch, you need to go back to the drawing board. So I think it's really important to be able to articulate what your why is, why you're doing what you're doing, and really how you do it differently than other people. I think that's very important as well. Those are my top 3.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you very much, Blakeley, for joining this podcast. It was really nice, talking to you and learning all these things about your personal life, your business life, your integration. I really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Live like a CEO.